apt for us to be discussing about this issue, anxiety, can you please go away? So I think for this evening, let me introduce our speaker. Shall we have the next slide? So our speaker is one of the members of Care Warriors, and as we shared before last month actually, Care Warriors is a local non-governmental organization mainly focusing on mental health awareness and also suicide prevention. So we've actually got one of our own members here to be sharing with you regarding the topic of today. So Lynnette is a registered licensed counselor. She's also a human resource practitioner and also a certified coach. She graduated the bachelor degrees in psychology from Help University and then subsequently continued her studies with a master's degree in counseling. She's currently the director of a consulting firm that specializes in providing mental health services to corporate organizations. I think more importantly is that she's trained in acceptance and commitment therapy. It's a form of psychotherapy or talking therapy that we often use, particularly for conditions like anxiety and also depression. And also, interestingly here as well, she uses expressive art in her therapy as well. So I think without further ado, let's all welcome Lynnette for her to share with us about anxiety. Can you please go away? Lynnette, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Amir, Dr. Amir. I think what you didn't know is that I actually had my internship at
Recording stopped.
Like few years ago. So that was where also I met Dr. Lim. I think I've definitely seen you before.
Okay.
Were you aware?
I was not aware. Sorry, I must have been not present at that point. But at least Dr. Lim knows that you were there.
Sure. All right. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive straight in. Good evening, everyone. How are you guys doing? I'm so sorry for the technical error earlier. I hope from now on we are good. Okay, so let me give a very quick introduction, just to top it on what Dr. Amir has actually shared with all of you. I'm a registered counselor. I have been practicing as a therapist for the last 6 years. And I have also worked with different organizations as a coach and HR consultant for the past 10 years. So it is really my pleasure to be with all of you here today. First of all, I would really want to express my gratitude to Care Warriors and every one of you who took your time to join us this evening. And I want you to know that your experience with our webinars is super important to us. So to optimize your experience here as a participant on this platform, let's make this as fun as possible. Okay, let's make it as interactive. I mean, it's going to be 1 hour. It's not too long, but it's not too short either. So let's make the best out of this 1 hour. So keep your comments and questions coming. All right. So for a start, why not you type something in the chat box if you can hear me loud and clear? Like give me a yes or an emoji or anything so that I know that I'm not here alone. Is that okay?
Yes. Loud and clear.
Perfect. Wonderful. Okay, I may not be able to check the chats because it's on the right corner, which is very, very secluded. I may need help from either Dr. Amir or Dr. Lim or whoever that is there to help me pick up questions if there is any.
No problem. We'll do that.
Thank you. All right, so let's go. Like what Dr. Amir said earlier, I think this is a very tough time for all of us. COVID-19 is nothing new. And its impact is no stranger to us as well. And this pandemic has had a major effect on our lives, causing us tremendous stress and anxiety. Why don't you share with me here in the chat box, what are some of the common emotions that you have experienced or experiencing due to this pandemic? For myself, it's definitely a lot of anxiety. Even coming to this is a lot of anxiety, and Dr. Amir didn't make it easier for me. And tiredness is one for me as well. What about you guys? Like, what are some of the common emotions that you experience? Hopelessness, fear, worry, anxiety. Yeah. Burnout, frustrated. Yeah. All these are really common experiences, like no idea what I'm doing with my life. Thank you so much for sharing. And I want you to know that these are valid emotions. These are valid challenges as well. You know, challenges from different aspects of life can cause stress and anxiety or even depression. And just because we have gone through lockdown last year, going through another lockdown now doesn't make it any easier. And I want to start off by reminding every one of us that everyone's battle is different. Our capacity and ways of coping are also very different. Therefore, the most harmful thing that we can do to ourselves is by comparing our coping abilities with other people. The fact is no one is the same. So as we go through this sharing today, I really want to encourage you to take it at your own pace. Okay, we don't need to compare with anybody else. You know, sometimes it becomes so automatic. Like for example, if you're a mom and you're working, and then you look at your colleague who is also a mom and still working, and she seems to be like all happy and cheerful. And sometimes you ask yourself, like, why can't I be like her? Or why can't I be like him for whatever the matter is? You know, or doing this only adds unnecessary stress to ourselves. So it is very important for us to learn the right way of coping with our emotions. And that is why you guys are here. The best gift that we can give to ourselves, that we can give to our loved ones, is a healthy you. And right now, we want to dive into this topic to learn how to be healthier, because we want to be the best gift that we can give to our loved ones. To learn to cope with anxiety or any kind or any other emotional stresses for that matter, we first need to know the source of it. So what causes anxiety? For most of us, anxiety is caused by outside forces, right? Like work, school, finances, relationships, of course, the threats that come along with this COVID-19 pandemic. But these are just triggers. These are just symptoms. What really causes anxiety, what really causes the feeling that you're feeling right now, is not those symptoms. It's not those elements that I mentioned, but the stories that we tell ourselves. The stories that we tell ourselves about all this that trigger us. And the stories that we tell ourselves are usually negative in nature. Discerning and learning about the voice in our head is the key to maintaining a healthy emotional well-being. Let me give an example. For example, if I have a headache, okay, and headache is a trigger, but if I look at headache, let's say if I tell myself, oh, I'm just having a headache, maybe I'm not having enough rest, maybe I'm dehydrated, I'll be okay, and then it's fine. But maybe my headache continue for a few days, and I begin to tell myself, tak betul lah. I remember my uncle, right, also got headache for a few days, and then after that, when I check, tumor, cancer, mungkin I also got cancer. And that is when we start to ruminate. That is when we start to spiral down. Our imagination gets the best of us. And we always have a way of making ourselves anxious. Why? Why does our mind give us all these negative self-talk? Why is it so easy that the things that when my mind gives us is always negative? Most anxiety stems from self-fabricated stories. Based on what? Based on speculation and assumptions. Oh boy, we love to make assumptions, even though we don't want to, but these assumptions just come on its own. For example, okay, like maybe today I asked my husband, hey, you want to go out to the mamak store outside? Okay, today cannot go out, okay, but for example, like, can you tell me to buy something outside? And then my husband say, alah, tak nak lah, malas nak pergi. Oh, then straight away, oh, last time when you were wooing me, I go far so you can, but now don't want already. That means you don't like me anymore lah. Assumption. Or we are in lockdown now, I can't go anywhere. Is this going to be forever? Is this going to be forever? Like, what if I gonna COVID and die? What if my children or parents were contracted with COVID? What should I do? Is this gonna be very bad? Or boss didn't pick me for this project. I tell you, confirm. Dr. Amir, I tell you, my boss didn't pick me for this project. Confirm, because I'm not good enough. I don't need to ask. Confirm is not good enough, you know? You have to believe me. We make a lot of assumptions even though we don't want to. Why do we do that? Because our mind is designed for survival, not happiness. Let me repeat. Our mind is designed for survival, not happiness. And what do I mean by that? I want to bring you back to our caveman days. You know, those zaman batu dahulu, right? What are the main threats that we have those times? The main predators, lion, tiger, bear, and all these wild animals, right? And because of that, our mind is designed and trained to always look out for danger. Always look out for danger, you know, like, oh, the tree move a bit, maybe got tiger behind. I hear some noise, maybe somebody is coming after my village. And our mind needs to do all this to increase our rate of survival. We need fear because when there is fear, it mobilizes us to fight or flight mode. It is supposed to help us to get to safety. But of course, when sometimes the fear is too overwhelming, we freeze. I'm sure some of us will have experienced it once or twice in our life. You know, sometimes the news was too shocking. We don't know what to do. And that's when emotions were too overwhelming. So you said, but Lynnette, today we don't have lion, tiger running out every day and then come into your house randomly. You're right, we don't have. But we are faced with different threats. Might not a physical one, but it can be emotional one, like COVID. In fact, COVID is also a physical one, it's a biological one. But the effects of COVID can be emotional, right? Can be sickness, or it can be financial burden. All kinds of all these are threats. And our brain, let me tell you a secret about our brain cannot differentiate physical and emotional threat. Anything that brings pain to your brain is dangerous. And when your brain senses danger, what do your brain do? Our brain gives us stress, which leads to anxiety. Because our brain was trained that when you are anxious, you get to run to safety. So this is a built-in system in our body supposed to protect us so that we can avoid all forms of danger. But the problem is our mind may not be right all the time. Our mind is still very much the caveman mind, the caveman brain, you know, that is always looking out for danger, always giving you the assumptions so that you can take precaution. But in today's world, take all these precautions, all these thoughts about will I die, will I lose my job, I'm going crazy with all these stresses, what if, what if, what if? These thoughts may not be helpful today. It might be helpful back then, but today all these thoughts will lead us into a lot of stresses and anxiety. Right. These thoughts will induce different kind of fear, pain, stress, anxiety, so that it's supposed to help us, but in a lot of cases, especially how we are experiencing today, it might not be very helpful. But I want you to know that these thoughts are automatic thoughts. These thoughts are automatic thoughts. That means you can't choose what to think. A lot of times people tell you, think positive only lah, why you say negative? You won't die one lah, so easy to die, man. But the fear is still in there, right? It's so easy to say think positive. I can't. You're right, you can't because our thoughts are automatic. It's built in, all right? It's supposed to help us induce fear so that we can move to safety. And therefore, the topic of the day, anxiety, would you please go away? The answer is no, we can't actually let anxiety to go away. Imagine if we don't have anxiety. Imagine we don't have fear. What's going to happen when we walk into a dark alley and then we don't feel fear at all? We might get into danger because we are not afraid, right? Then we will not take precaution of ourselves. So anxiety, fear, and different kinds of emotions are there for a purpose. While your thoughts and feelings are real, they may not be your reality. No matter how real you feel about your depression, about your anxiety, about all your thoughts, I want you to know that they are real, and I'm here to validate that. But they may not be your reality. I don't know if you hear yourself saying this. Can I not feel sad, please? Can I not feel fear, please? My clients always come to me and ask me if I can take their pain and fear away. And I'm sorry, the answer is no, because we are designed to experience a full range of emotions. Happy, sad, surprised, disgusted, angry. We are designed to experience this. Why? Because these emotions tell us what is important to us. And I want to set you free today, my friend. If you have all these thoughts and worries and unpleasant emotions, congratulations. You are a normal human being. Being a normal human being means we are capable of feeling many emotions on a spectrum. Having unpleasant feelings are never a problem. It only becomes a problem when we start avoiding them. Did we get that? Having unpleasant feelings are never a problem. Having anxiety is not a problem. It only becomes a problem when we start avoiding them. Let me share with you a story. I have a client who experienced anxiety when she's out in the public. She gets panic attack. The moment she thinks about going out and meeting people, she freezes and she doesn't know how to handle herself and her situation. She always fears that she will make a fool out of herself due to some previous not so good experience. So these panic attacks are her mind's way of telling her that something bad happened previously. So don't go out. Because if you go out, you are going to feel it. If you go out now, you are going to make a fool out of yourself again. You're going to feel bad about it. You will feel so shameful about it. So anxiety attacks come. But what happens is when she tries to avoid anxiety by refraining herself from going out, she becomes more stressful because it gets harder and harder to go out now. And it gets scarier to think about going out. The more we want our thought to go away, the more the thought stays. The more you tell yourself, don't angry, like your kids, like, maybe they are mischievous and you suddenly get very angry and you say, okay, cool down, sabar, jangan marah. But sometimes the more we ask us not to marah, the more we get angry, right? Why is that so? Let us do an experiment. Okay, let's do an experiment right now. I want you to recall what you ate for your dinner just now. Visualize your dish. Okay, the color, the plating, how does it look like? Is it on the table or is it not on the table? Imagine it, okay? I hope all of you are seeing it right now in your mind. Okay? I want you to forget it now. Forget about that dish. Remove it from your memory. I don't want to look at it anymore. Can you? Chances are you're not able to do it. And even if you say you can, by saying you can, you are still thinking about it. Get it? That is how the mind is designed. We are designed to, our mind is addictive. We can only add on memories. We cannot really remove them. We can forget about them maybe, yes, but we cannot intentionally remove them. So when we try to remove our feeling, we can't. Okay? The more we try to push them away, the faster and deeper we sink. You know about quicksand, even though we probably don't have a lot here in Malaysia, but we learn the signs of it. When you fall into a quicksand, the natural instinct is to push them away, right? So struggle up. But the more we push them away, the faster and deeper we sink. Emotions are the same. Emotional avoidance creates more pain in the long run. Another illustration for you. How many of you feel like all your thoughts are like this monster that you're always in a tug of war with? Like you want to win it. Like I want to fight this anxiety. I want to win this anxiety. I want to win this depression. I always want to be in a tug of war with you and hoping that I can win it. But it's tiring, isn't it? And what happens to your hand? Your hands are all tied up because you are busy fighting this monster that is always there, doesn't seem to want to budge. And as long as we are holding on the rope, we are in it with the monster. And our hands are tied. We can't do anything else. We can't, so much so that sometimes we feel like the anxiety is so overwhelming that I'm not living my life anymore. I'm spending every ounce of energy dealing with this monster only. And that is what happens when we are in a tug of war with this monster. But what if I say I have another suggestion for you? Maybe we don't have to win the monster. Because remember, these thoughts are automatic. We can't remove them. Then what can we do? We can drop the rope. Is the monster still there? Yes. But what happens to your hands right now? You are free to do some of the things that you want to do for yourself. You are free to hug your children. You're free to do your project. You're free to buy stuff for yourself, figuratively speaking. When we are no longer, when we choose to not play with this monster, to not be in a tug of war with this monster, we get to live our life. But is the anxiety still there? Yes. Is the painful feeling still there? Most likely, yes. But what is different is we are not stuck with it. There is a bit of flexibility that we are talking about here. Now the big question, how then, Lynnette, how? And I saw some of you saying that the problem with panic attacks is we don't know when it comes. Yeah, we don't know when it comes, and we can't predict it. And that is painful, I know. But we can try to take it one step at a time. And when it comes, we will learn how to manage it. And these are 3 things that we can do. Okay. First of all, accept and acknowledge, lean into your emotions, and act on values. First of all, accept and acknowledge. I don't think this is anything new. It's very common, but not commonly practiced. Most of the time, our worries is because we are spending our energy thinking about things that are not within our control. So the first thing that we want to do is look at the amount of thoughts that we have. What is really within my control and what is really not within my control? Why not share with me in the chat box? What is it that is within your control? And what is it that is, let's start with not within our control. What is it that is not within our control? Anything under the sun. What is not within your control? Anyone? Share with me something that you know for a fact is not within our control. People's action, external factors like people's perception, the weather, yeah. What other people think of you. I thought we can eating depression to avoid fight with people. The pandemic is out of our control. You guys are spot on. Look what I've put here. Weather is out of our control. People's perception is out of our control. And what else is out of our control? Our own emotions is out of our control as well. And I would also like to take this opportunity to answer some of the questions that you guys submit in. Some of the questions mentioned about how do we deal with people who don't understand our anxiety? So like what many of you have mentioned, people's thoughts and people's behavior and how people think about us is not within our control. So what can we do? Focus on what I can control. So what is something that we all can control? How we deal with our emotions, how we act on our emotions. So first thing, know what is within and not within our control. Focus on what we can control, and that is how we respond to our emotions. Okay, so how do we respond to our emotions? Like I mentioned just now, lean into these emotions. Like the quicksand, the more we try to push it away, the faster and deeper we sink. So we want to do it counterintuitively. When you are in the quicksand, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to just relax. Open your arms. I know it's hard. I know there's a lot of fear in you. You feel like you're dying, you're going downwards. But science tells us that if we can let go our hand and try to relax, what happens? You will see yourself actually stop sinking or even floating. And that is exactly what we want to do with our anxiety. I know this may sound very real, very new, and very scary. What? So painful. I don't want to feel it already. And now you're telling me to feel it. Yes, I am. Because for one thing, I know for sure is that we have tried all kinds of ways to avoid feeling it, and yet we still feel it. It may work for a while. Like, I don't want to think about it. I go watch some Netflix, I sleep, I binge drama, I eat ice cream. But we all know that it comes back. So the next thing that I want to share with you is a technical skill of how do we lean into these emotions. And by leaning into these emotions, it is also our way of telling our mind that, hey, there is no danger here, it's okay. You can put your guard down. And that is also one way of us rewiring our brain. So how do we do it? How do we deal with our emotions? I would like to spend the next 2 to 3 minutes doing this exercise with you. And I would really appreciate if you can be away from any distractions. Otherwise, you may not be able to experience it fully. Otherwise, yep, we can start off. So this activity is called riding the wave. Okay, is something that I do with my clients all the time, but it's not going to be like a magical pill. You know, it takes practice. Why? The way our brain works is day after day of repetitive way of doing things, right? It has been wired that way. So now we want to unwire it. It's going to take a while. All right. So don't get discouraged. Practice this as and when you can, and you will see the difference. But for now, I want to bring you through. All right. Just give me 3 minutes of your full attention, and hopefully you'll feel something different. So riding the wave, I'm sure all of us have been to the beach and watched the wave come and go. How did that feel like? How did watching the wave come and go feel like for you? Listening? Am I missing any conversation? Bliss, free, coming, right? Tenang, right? And that is what we want to try to achieve with our emotions. So if you can, I want you to be comfortable in your chair, sitting with a relaxed but straight posture. Okay, relax your shoulders. And I'll like you to close your eyes if you're comfortable, or just give a soft gaze. You know, you don't have to look at the screen. All you need to do is to listen to my instruction. Okay, let's calm down. And let's take in some deep breaths. Connecting to your breath. And notice how your belly rise and fall as you breathe in and out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And I'd like you to tune in to your feelings right now. Try to see if you could pinpoint one of your feelings and try to name it. Is it anxiety? Is it sadness? Or is it anger? It doesn't matter. I just want you to tune in to that feeling that is in you right now. Try to stay focused. Listen to my instructions. Tune into that feeling. Try to name it. And I want you to project that feeling onto the sea. Imagine the sea is in front of you and project your feeling onto the sea right now. And I would like you to observe the waves come and go. And as you sit here and observe this feeling, where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a texture? Does it have weight? Is it heavy or is it light? Does it have smell? Or is there color? We want to try to objectify this feeling. Is it moving? Or is it stationary? And we want to acknowledge this feeling, that this is just my feeling. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm a watcher of my own feelings as it rises and falls like a wave. As a wave come and go, we don't need to block it. We do not need to get rid of it. We don't need to judge it or ask, why are you here? Why do I have these thoughts? No, we don't need to do that. Just look at your emotion, look at the waves without any judgment. Don't hold on to it. Don't push it away. Don't need to make it bigger. Don't need to make it smaller as well. Remember, you are not your feeling. You do not need to act on it. You just need to notice it. And I would like to bring you back to reality right now. Just taking a deep breath, a few deep breaths if you want to. And when you're ready, I'd like you to open your eyes. How do you feel like? I hope some of you are able to do it, to at least experience how is it like to just watch our feelings without judgment. Many times we evaluate our feelings, good feelings, bad feelings. But we just want to learn how to not judge our feelings and just look at it. Look at your anxiety as it is. Any one of you managed to do it, and how do you feel about it? Objective, sleepy, yes, it's soothing in a way. Less afraid. Yeah, Felinda said it very well. I mean, that's pretty spot on. Sometimes we are afraid because we don't know what is it. I don't know if you experienced this before, but I remember as a kid when I play hide and seek with my cousins, right? I always very scared that my cousin will find me because I know that if he saw me and I didn't see him, he would jump scare me. And that's when I feel tremendous fearful about it. But when I say that, I don't care lah, I'm just gonna, look at you, and if you come, when I'm prepared to look at it and really anticipate it, and turns out that, hey, it may not be as scary as it seems. It's when we avoid it, it becomes scarier. Okay, so when we are able to ride the wave, to see our emotions as emotions, we are now able to have a bigger space to see our emotions as data, so that we know what are all these emotions are trying to tell us. Like I mentioned, there are no right or wrong emotions, no positive, no negative. I know that it is common that people evaluate our emotions that way. But the truth is there is really no good or bad emotions. Sorry, is fear bad? Imagine if you are in danger and you have no fear. Is it still bad? No, we want fear. Imagine you have a project upcoming and there is no slightest sense of anxiety at all. And you just like, chill lah, no need to do one lah. That's when problems happen. So emotions are not good, are not bad. They are just emotions that tell us what is important to us. Back to the example that I gave about my client who feels extremely anxious when she's about to meet people. This anxiety that she's feeling, what does it say about what is important to her? And I also want to encourage you to think this question for yourself as well. When you experience an anxiety in a certain situation, what is that anxiety trying to tell you? What does it say about what is important to you? For my client, connecting to people is important to her, which is why she cares so much. Sometimes she feels so anxious about it. But this anxiety, as painful as it is, if we can get through this and understand that it is trying to tell us that meeting people is important to my client, not meeting people is going to drain her even more. So what can you do now if you know that meeting people is your value? Or maybe if you're anxious about an exam or a job, what does it say about what is important to you? Maybe responsibility is important to you. Achievement is important to you, which is why you feel anxious about getting things done because you want to do it well. You don't want to screw it up, right? So when we are able to have that capacity to think, we now can ask ourselves, what are our values? Many of you ask, I have anxiety, what do I do? First of all, acknowledge what is within your control. Second of all, lean into those emotions. Do not avoid those anxiety. And when you are able to do that, the third thing is to act on your values. You know what is important to you. You know what is meaningful to you. Now we have a choice to act on it. Let your values guide your way. Make way, as you make way for your emotions and thoughts, let it be there, but let your values guide your way. Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to live a life that is aligned with your values, right? You want to be the kind of person that you want to be. and we want to rely a lot on our emotions to tell us actually what is important to us, rather than being in a tug of war with a monster all day, a day. So yes, we can act on our values. And that is what we're going to do, right? Now that we are empowered, we have the mental space, now we can act on our values. I'm coming to an end, and I just want to give you a quick illustration of how do I tie all these things together. This is how it looks like in our brain or in our mind. We have a panic button that is inbuilt, that gives us anxiety, stress, and whatever to help us to get to safety when danger comes. This ball that you see in the middle, represented by teams, represents all your thoughts, emotions, associations, memories, sensations that are automatic. Tak boleh control. Dia nak datang, dia datang. Dia tak nak datang, dia tak nak datang. Okay, this part of the ball, the green ball, are things that we cannot control and we cannot remove either. It is there. It is built into our system. So imagine this is our mental space, and this ball will bounce right in this box. How often do you think this ball will hit on this panic button? Frequent or not frequent? Frequent, right? It's going to be very frequent because the space is so small. But when we are able to acknowledge that we cannot change them, we cannot remove them, and we practice riding the waves, we practice making space for it to be there, we learn not to push it away, we learn to just hold it there, right there, and not fight against it. What changed? Our mental space gets expanded. Did the panic button change? No, the size is the same. Did the ball change? No, the size is the same. Are all these issues still here? Probably yes. But what has changed? Our mental space is expanded. And now, how often do you think this ball will hit on that panic button? Probably less frequent than this one, right? Now we may not, our thoughts and all might not trigger anxiety as much. And what do we do when we are less triggered? We can now then ask our values, what's important to us, what does it say about what is important to me? Like I was feeling anxious before I started, right? And imagine if I let it, if I try to avoid it and anxiety keeps screaming, I might not turn up for this talk. But when I practice leaning into my emotions, I ask myself, what is this anxiety trying to tell me? It tells me that I want to do a good job. That's why I will be anxious about it. And if I want to do a good job, what do I need to do? I need to at least show up, right? And there are lists of things that we can do to pursue our values. The pursuit of values will lead to progress. Okay, our goal here is not perfection. Our goal here is not to remove anxiety and just be happy every day, but our goal here is to make progress. Baby steps, that's fine. Sometimes I tell my clients, if one step at a time is too big for you, go by an hour at a time, or take a minute by minute, that is okay, as long as we learn to make progress. So when you're not fighting off the emotions, you can have better mental space, bigger mental space, more energy to focus on what is more important to you. Like this illustration here. Wait, when we try to wait until we feel like doing something, it's like putting the cart before the horse. We will get stuck because feelings lead the way. If our feelings don't feel like it, we are not going to walk. We are not going to progress. But when we put values ahead of feelings, even though the feelings are still going to be there, even though it's still going to be tough, but at least we can make progress. So do not rely on feelings, rely on our values. Let that be your motivation. Because while feeling of happiness, so does anxiety, fluctuates, living a life of meaning, of value does not. And that is a quick 3 points for us to manage anxiety. I hope you are able to get something from our quick sharing today. And yep, now is Q&A time. Shall we move on to Q&A? Do you guys have any questions throughout the session that I can help address, or maybe Dr. Amir can address as well?
Okay, thank you very much, Lynnette, for that very exciting and amazing presentation. I think I learned quite a bit. And I think we'll go to the recap later on again, just to remind our friends the 3 items. But I think we've got an opportunity now over the next few minutes here, and I've got at least about 15 to 20 minutes that we can actually take some questions. So would anybody like to ask some questions? Or let's start with some questions that have been given to us prior. Let me just have a look at the next slide. I think it's under questions.
Yeah, this I think there are some questions here.
Okay, so there's a few questions. So the first question that was given to us by some of you here, this is to Lynnette. Can anxiety be totally healed?
Yeah, I think we get that question quite a bit, right? I think the first thing that we have also covered in the session just now is that anxiety is just like happiness. Anxiety is a feeling like happiness, sadness, anger. It is not meant to go away. They are part of a built-in system, right? That help us to navigate. So technically, we cannot be healed from anxiety, but we certainly may recover from anxiety disorder.
Okay.
Yeah, so anxiety is a feeling, but anxiety disorder is a condition that we may be able to recover from. But just like headache or any medical condition for that matter, even though we might recover from it, we wouldn't know whether it will come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can recover, the answer is, but if it comes back, then we want to continue to manage it.
Okay. I think they've got somebody who's unmuted. Okay, sorry. So let's have a look at the next question. What is the next question there? Oh, okay. How do you introduce mental health into conversations?
Invite them to attend our monthly Sembang session.
Oh, that's definitely a good way of saying it.
Yeah. Do you wanna share?
No, I'll leave it to you, Lynnette.
I think jokes aside, I mean, I meant it, this is definitely a more casual way of getting things started. Like this is so the reason why Care Warriors wanted this monthly Sembang session, to make conversations like this more casual, so that people can benefit from it. I think a big thing about introducing mental health into conversation is to normalize things. And that is also why we are doing this. We want to normalize the stigma around mental health. There are a lot of wrong perception about mental health. So we want to try to make things casual. If you want to talk to your friends about mental health, always start with something less personal. We wouldn't know what everyone is going through. So sometimes we just want to start off with something more casual or introducing them to some platform to learn about things. But I think as a society as a large, there are a lot of things we can do, especially like schools or organizations. These are perfect place to normalize issues like this. Imagine if our education system actually talk about mental health. I think we are a lot more prepared when we grow older, that we know that this is not something to be ashamed of. And this is also why I'm very passionate about bringing mental health into organizations, because this is the time where the non-clinical population can be reached out to, and that is also when early intervention is possible. Otherwise, like when they come to our clinic, most of the time the condition can be a little bit more severe. Yeah, so it's a bit harder then, right? There's a lot more. It's a lot harder to then try to recover from it.
Yep. Well, I think the other one, I fully agree with you, Lynnette. I think one of the other ways is, as you mentioned, to get people involved with discussions like this, which is, I think, quite non-confrontational, fairly open. Other ways that you can actually get people to be engaged in the conversation is to share with them relevant articles or maybe podcasts or, videos that sort of create the conversation. I think another one that I've shared with families particularly is especially mom and dad, if they wanted to introduce it to children, is that if you're watching certain shows where there is an emotion, as you mentioned at the very beginning of your talk, either someone crying or someone looking really anxious or fearful, I think that's really a time for them to introduce that emotion to the family. So you could start like, oh, I'm feeling like that at the moment, and then the child might say, what is that feeling, Dad? That's called fear, and then you can have a discussion about fear. And as you mentioned, it's a response that's normal, natural. It's there to protect you. However, some people have abnormal fear. So, I mean, these are some ways for you to create a conversation about one aspect of mental health that might be slightly quite non-judgmental in a way, and sort of normalize the conversation in your household. So that may be one way of doing it.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, let's go to the next question before we start taking some of the ones from the crowd here. How do you help someone during a panic attack?
Wow. I think first of all, we need to stay calm ourselves. If like the person kanchong, then you also kanchong, then everyone kanchong together. And I think usually when people are experiencing panic attacks, they are in extreme fear. So we want to be able to help them to feel safe. I think that's number one, right? We want to be able to help them to feel safe. And usually we use that 3L, like you look, you listen, you link.
Yep.
So look, you always look for danger. Like, is this person in danger? Can you bring this person to a safe place? Is there any dangerous objects around it? Okay, safety is done. Listen to this person empathetically. Like, what does this person need? And not use your experience. Like, like sometimes how we speak to someone like we are down, then the person will be like, I also experienced this before. Why you so panic? Chill lah. That's when you feel like you panic, right? You're not listening to me. So we want to be able to listen. And I think last one, link is very powerful. Link the person to the help that is needed.
Yeah.
Or link the person to people that are important to them, like their loved ones. And that support is very, very powerful. When they see people that they are comfortable with, that their loved ones, it gives them a lot of safety.
Well, I think Aini over here says, listen without judgment. That might be one way of saying listen. I think I also wanted to share with people that panic attacks are normal. It's often happens when you're having not enough rest or you're currently under a lot of stress. However, if you're having frequent panic attacks and you start to change your behavior, that is when abnormality comes in. And I think what Lynnette has shared, the 3Ls, is actually quite an easy way for us to connect with individuals who are having those panic attacks. So let's just take one or two questions from the floor here. Okay, so...
Oh, there's actually one last question.
Yeah, there's a lot of, well, there's, okay, right. So the next question from the crowd prior to this engagement is there any food that people with anxiety need to avoid?
Maybe I'll should pass this to you, Dr. Amir. It's like a medical question.
well, actually, in terms of people with anxiety, as Lynnette had shared just now, it's often going to be heightened, and you'll have certain anxiety symptoms, and the symptoms are often related to stress. Often, so you will have psychological symptoms, you'll have physical symptoms. And often the psychological symptoms is feeling like you're not there, for example, or you are not part of that particular conversation, you feel a bit spaced out. Physical symptoms, of course, you'll have heart racing, you might have stomach discomfort, you might feel faint, you might have a headache. So some of the foods that you might want to consider avoiding if you're somebody with anxiety is going to be things that are stimulating, caffeine, that includes coffee and tea. So if you are someone with anxiety prone personality type, or you've got a lot of people in your family with anxiety, you probably want to take it easy on the coffee and tea and chocolate because they've got caffeine in them. You might want to also consider reducing sugar a little bit as well, because you might get a sugar rush, which might also precipitate You might want to hold back on the alcohol. Again, you might feel that the alcohol helps you, but the moment you stop the alcohol, you get a rebound in anxiety. And you definitely don't want to smoke because those are stimulants as well. And they might precipitate and perpetuate or continue the anxiety you're having. So, these are some of these things. Why do I say smoking as part of food? Because if you look at the Food Act, tobacco comes under the Food Act for some reason, but nevertheless, it's something that you want to consider avoiding if you have not already. So, okay, so there's a few questions over here. Wow, there's some nice ones here. Ruby here mentions to everyone that she says that you can also use something called grounding exercise during a panic attack. Any thoughts about that, Lynnette?
Yeah, I use that a lot, and I think one simple one that I can share grounding technique is, just sit straight and relax and just tap your fingers on your lap. Just focus on tapping the tapping of your fingers and your lap. I think a lot of times when we are in panic attacks or when we are experiencing tremendous stress or anxiety, our thoughts are the one that is bringing us right. Yeah. And what we want to do is to channel our attention back on things that we can feel, and which is why it's called grounded. We want to ground our sensations to things that we can see, we can feel, we can smell. And that usually helps to, shift that perspective a bit.
There's one question that I've seen come up here a little bit, which is quite interesting. I know we're talking about anxiety, but you also mentioned at the very beginning, the pandemic itself is something that we cannot control, as you've shared in your talk. And you've also shared that as a result of pandemic, you have a lot of emotions. So someone was mentioning that they get lonely. And also the next question related to that is, the question is, can you use techniques related to imagination to avoid or reduce loneliness? Have you heard about anything that might be helpful for people out there who are lonely over 8 weeks of EMCO that we're dealing with at the moment?
I'm sure we have read articles and come across research that uses visualization to boost confidence. Yeah, use visualization to boost confidence. Even the riding the wave is one of the methods. It's one of the visualization techniques, right? But I'm not too sure when our participant mentioned loneliness, because is it to imagine that someone is there with you kind of imagination? Because that might not be very apt or very helpful, because that might trigger more thoughts. Like you're imagining something, it makes you feel like you're really alone. But imagination on other things, visualization on other things may help, but maybe not so much on loneliness in my line of work.
Well, definitely, visualization helps a lot in terms of relaxation, and it's one of the relaxation techniques. And I think for everyone out there, we're actually hearing quite a number of relaxation exercises today. Grounding, as one of you have mentioned, visualization, as Lynnette had talked about. She's also shared with you on the acceptance, riding the waves. So this is another method of relaxation. Indirectly, she shared a little bit, which ACT is a bit about mindfulness, I think. So you've already learned a number of newer, in a way, techniques to relax, which if you practice, and I think someone had mentioned, 2 people had mentioned that they use some of these techniques for panic attacks. Another had mentioned, Daniel, I think, had mentioned that he or she uses this particular method for sleeping. And I think these are definitely methods that individuals can actually use for relaxation. I think we're sort of running out of time, but let me take one extra question here. Let me see here. Okay, Ashley talks about meditation. So that's another method as well for relaxation. So there are a number of methods out there that can be quite helpful in assisting for relaxation. Ashley also agrees with you, Lynnette, that conversations related to mental health should start in schools. And that's something
that we really lack.
Yeah, that's something that we really lack. Okay, is there any? Okay, one more question here. So I think Daniel says that he uses NLP and hypnosis on himself. And I think that's another conversation altogether, Daniel, in terms of
Yeah.
whether it's recognized or not. But definitely, these methods can help some individuals as well for this. So I think if there's no further questions, I just wanted to sum up for you, Lynnette,
Yes, please.
in terms of what I learned today. And I don't know, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So first of all, I learned that the emotions that one faces, anxiety particularly, is a normal emotion. And as you've mentioned, it's okay to be anxious during this period of time. I like the way that you said that our mind is designed for survival. I think a number of people also thought that was a really good statement. However, it sounds a bit negative when it says that it's not really meant for happiness, but I know what you mean. It's really meant for survival. And at the end of the day, it's really about just staying alive. And I think the methods for coping I thought was quite helpful. Accept and acknowledge, lean into your emotions. And then, of course, the final one that you shared with us was act on values. Is there any last words that you'd like to share with us at all, Lynnette?
I just want to encourage everyone, and I want all of you to know that whatever that all of you are feeling right now, you're not alone. Like even I feel it. Even I'm sure even Dr. Amir feels it. Even though we are in this line, we probably see a lot of people who are suffering in this, but we feel it ourselves as well. It's not new. So be kinder to ourselves. It's okay to feel this. And let's practice whatever that we have learn today and try to make space. And I think what is more encouraging is to do what is important to us while we feel this so that we are progressing.
Could you just show the last two slides for me, Lynnette? So I just wanted to also just remind everyone here. Oops.
Is it this one?
No, the last, our last two slides. The last slide, I think. Okay, yep. I just wanted to thank everyone again for their time today. And I think, again, just to remind everyone, we are an organization that is based in the community, primarily looking at mental health awareness and suicide prevention. If you wanted to follow us for further news, these are some of our social media platforms that you can follow. More importantly as well, for those of you who registered today through our Zoom platform, when we have the next show, we definitely will be linking up with you so you get sort of first dibs in knowing what's next. Yeah. So I think on behalf of Care Warriors, myself and Lynnette, I would like to thank all of you here for joining us for the last 1 hour. We wanted to apologize if there's any technical glitch that might have sort of slowed down a little bit of our efforts. But definitely, we are really happy to have all of you here, almost 50 people on the Zoom platform. And I know a number of you are watching on Facebook. Lynnette, last words before we end?
Nope. Have a good night, everyone. It's been a good 1 hour with all of you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll catch up with you later on.
Bye.